The true nature of you is soul. The true nature of you is spirit. When you are a human being, the problem is you identify too much of being human, and that puts too many fallacies within yourself. See this body no more different than how you're wearing clothing. It's beautiful clothing. It's a beautiful body. It's something that, again, helps you to work together with this experience. But if you keep relating to yourself as a human being, this is why you're lost. You do not see the infinite nature of your spiritual self. Your spiritual self needs to be the forefront of everything else. Here I am in a human body. Here I am in human clothing. And here I am having these experiences. Great. Bring the divine into your human experience. Bring God into your human experience. Bring spirit into your human experience.
Welcome to my podcast, Spiritual Quest, with me, your host, Vibeke Garnos, always guided by Spirit. I am very excited to share my gift with you and empower you to embrace your gift. So if you define yourself as a spiritual human being, then you've come to the right place. So prepare yourself now for an amazing journey where your soul will lead the way. Hello, and welcome to the Spiritual Quest podcast. I'm sure you felt it. The world is changing, and as multidimensional beings, we're shifting into higher consciousness. And as we keep evolving as humans, our physical bodies must learn how to adapt into higher frequencies by aligning body, mind, and spirit to become pure channels of love. This is such an exciting time for humanity as we are moving beyond the old 3D ways of living and are allowing soul energy and motion to lead and co-create a new earth. More and more people are awakening to the realization that we truly are one. And as we ascend into higher consciousness, many are faced with deep wounds stemming from our personal life, previous lifetimes, and lifetimes on other planets, not to mention ancestral, cultural, or collective wounds that we now are asked to heal to move beyond our current reality. So how do we do that? How can we heal ourselves and each other to be co-creators of a more loving and compassionate world? Well, today's guest is an international spiritual teacher, psychic, channeler, healer, and metaphysical researcher. Brad Johnson is the founder of AetherX, spiritual healing technology. And Brad is said to be able to look right into one's soul and can help to realize what is required to liberate from, whether it's fear, conflict, or trauma. In 2019, Brad received powerful intuitive downloads that gave him the ability to connect directly with pure spirit source consciousness. And he's currently expanding on this ability to develop new tools to help others achieve deep healing on a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual level. He's also the author of Rainbow Wisdom and The Reality Whisperer, to mention a few. It's my pleasure to welcome New Earth teacher Brad Johnson to the Spiritual Quest podcast. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, thank you very much for having me on today. I appreciate it.
It's such an honor and pleasure to have you here, Brad, and I'm super excited for our conversation. I love speaking about New Earth and how we as humanity can move and lift and raise our vibrations, and not to mention having to heal our wounds, our traumas. And I thought that would be a great conversation to have with you, as you have some interesting background, I would say. So let's start to get to know you, shall we? Why don't we
Yeah.
go all the way back, like in the beginning when you were a child? So how was your connection with spirit growing up?
Oh, I was not into any of this at all as a child. Basically, I was raised as Jehovah's Witness. I was not into the psychic world. I was not into spirituality. I was not into consciousness. I was not into any of those things. It was very much material life. I was very much into the physical. I was very much just looking into the idea about how the physical world works. I was basically trying to get ahead in life as well too. Basically, seeing if I could be successful, see if I could start a good business, do well financially, maybe eventually have a family, have a house, all that stuff, kind of the typical common materialistic dream that we usually have. It wasn't until age 29 that I actually started to get into a lot more of this. And right now I'm 44. So basically, through a span of about 15 years, this has been my entire life. It's been the missing part of my life. But as a young child, I was very much brought into the Jehovah's Witnesses. I was raised into that. And I did not like it at all. I was not into that religion. I never was fond of it in any particular way. It was just something that I was indoctrinated into, you could say. And it wasn't until I was a teenager that I decided to leave all that behind. And I was kind of just like sitting in the Kingdom Hall, just kind of putting up with everything, not listening, falling asleep most of the time, right? Not really listening to it whatsoever. And I just said, this is not going to do anything for anybody. This is not going to liberate you. This is not going to bring you into any peace of mind. It's basically just do as we say. It becomes much more of a cult based understanding when we look at many different types of religions. So I decided to leave it as a teenager, and I just said, I know that God exists. I'm just not into the way that God is portrayed through a lot of these religious aspects. So I just kind of went on my own. It wasn't kind of an atheist thing, which is more some idea. No, I do know that there is a God. It's just not that I don't want to represent him or her or it through the nature of religion. And throughout those few years, I just kind of drifted, never really thinking about it too much. And it wasn't until age 29 when I started to just get a download because I wanted to write a book about extraterrestrials. I wanted to find out what the real truth was. I wanted to go really deep into it. I wanted to make a novel based upon that entire
I
principle.
have a
And so this
question.
is,
I
yep.
have a real because you went straight into an extraterrestrial. I was like,
Mhm.
but how? What was that something you were interested about
Oh,
before?
all the
Because
time.
you said
Yes.
down,
Yeah.
yeah. So you did understand there was more um,
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
to this what was going on
Yeah,
than
I
just
was always very
God.
much into ETs when I was little. Yeah, I was very much about the ETs and going on spaceships. Having the kids' imagination. I would look into astronomy books. I'd go into my school's library. I'd take out these big astronomy books and I just look at the stars. And I was just captivated by that. These beautiful, NASA images of the stars, of the galaxies, and I felt at home. I felt completely at home when I
Oh,
was reading. I was watching these, looking at these beautiful books. I'd basically put on documentaries about space, about galaxies. That this is it. I'm home. I'm home when I'm
ah,
looking at space, when I'm looking at galaxies. So that's kind of giving my orientation right there. And so this is what made me, because I'd write short stories. I'd write little stories when I was younger as well too about ETs and being on different worlds and all that stuff like that. So it was very much my memories were coming through, but it
yes,
wasn't
you were
the
remembering.
psychic
Yeah.
phenomena yet. Like I was psychic, I just didn't know I was right. So I was basically able to read things. I was able to predict certain things that were coming in, but I didn't really pay it that much mind. And it wasn't until 29 years old that's when I started, and that's what got me into the idea of again writing a book, writing a fiction novel about the real ET presence, what's really going on. So I started researching everything online. I started talking to some channelers, some psychics, some intuitives, Black Ops community personnel, and I just tried to get an understanding about, what is it that this is all about? What are really the ETs all about? And they would always say that, well, they're very much human like us, and they believe in a one infinite creator. And if you learn to meditate, you'll learn to communicate with them. Like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know you could use meditation in that way. And that instantly just sparked. That sparked an awakening in me. And I went to another library, took out a book called Learn How to Meditate, did it within about 2 weeks, read it from front cover to back cover within that time, did a bunch of the exercises. I didn't care about anything else. I didn't think about anything else. I just wanted to get into meditation. I wanted to do this. I said, oh my God, I could talk to ET. So this is fantastic. And so I started doing these exercises. As I started doing these exercises, I would go very, very deep. As I'd go very deep, I would start going into these different realms. And it was just beautiful. They're kind of like astral planes that I would go into, and I would see these kind of floating crystal balls that were just radiating with this pure energy, and I could feel my astral hands touching them. As my hands astrally touched them, my physical hands would feel it as well too, and I would just get these surge of it was like pleasant surges of electricity that were actually coming through my physical body as well too. So I was getting downloaded majorly, and as I go to sleep at night, I would get these downloads. I would go into like these non-physical classrooms, and I'd wake up the next morning knowing things I didn't know before. And this has continued to happen for the past 15 years. So it still happens today, but it was much more intense at that time because it happened much more frequently. And I would just be aware of all these different principles. I would just be getting all this information downloaded into me over a span of time. And I would just really start getting more into channeling. I started getting much more into healing. I started getting much more into remote viewing. So I started talking to a lot of people, and I would go through the channeling process. I wanted to know more about channeling, so I started off kind of as like a journalist, just getting an idea about what channeling is all about, I talked to other channelers. I talked to psychics. I said, "What do you do? How do you know when these things are coming in? What's the process that you go through?" So I'd kind of take notes with what they're doing, and I would kind of trim away the fat. I would trim away all the fat stuff, and I basically would just find out the core of what they're doing, and I would implement that into my own particular type of channeled states. So I would go in and I'd start channeling collective consciousness. I would connect with Sirius. I would connect with Pleiades. I would connect with Orion. I would connect with Arcturus. I would connect with Lyra. So I'd connect with all these different consciousnesses and just get these kind of simple, nice messages. They felt good. And it wasn't until a friend of mine who is also a channeler came to me one day and said, "Well, Brad, you have a very strong connection with the Sirius A star, the dog star. It feels like there's a contact there, and it feels like they want to connect with you." This is the first time actually going into like a kind of like an individualized contact. It feels like a person is trying to connect with me. So I went into my state and I just started. All I really do is I just tether my heart directly to the star of Sirius. So I see the star of Sirius in my mind and I tether to it directly. And as I tethered to it, the flow came in. And basically it says, "I am Adronis of Sirius. I'm a future version of you 297 years in the future. I've come back at this time to assist in the upliftment of your own spiritual evolution. And through our agreement, you will also assist others in helping them to move into their spiritual evolution alongside with you. Is this something that you would like to do?" So we can basically look at these as pre-incarnational contracts. We basically look at the idea that these are things that come together, that are set in motion prior to coming into this lifetime. And so that was just the time, right? So the age of 29 was very much a benchmark for me to start me on this entire journey. And I started connecting with him. And it just started off with kind of a channeled writing state at first. Then later on, it moved into vocal channeling. But I was getting all of this great information, profound information, and I had to make sure that I wasn't going crazy. So I went out into my balcony and I just looked up at the sky and I said, "Guys, I have to make sure I'm not going crazy. I just want to make sure all this stuff isn't made up. And I want you guys just to show yourself. If there's any allied ships in the vicinity that just want to show themselves, please just show yourselves and to let me know I'm not going crazy." A few seconds later, a star wiggled out of the sky and just shot right across the sky, just moving with such grace and beauty. It was still at first and it just kind of wiggled. It wiggled and then it shot right across the sky. And about a full 30 seconds before it disappeared out of view. My ex wife actually saw it as well, too. And I was telling her, "I prayed for that. I intended for that." And she just thought I was going crazy. She looked at me like I had three heads. So this really, this really,
Yeah,
uh,
I get
this
it.
really opened me up. Yep, yep. And basically, as I started to go deeper into it, it realized that this was the most important thing to me more than anything. It was more important to me than anything I've ever done. It's more important to me than anything I ever had in life. And basically, I had to sacrifice a lot of things. I came to a crossroads where everything in my marriage was falling apart. Everything was just not good. There was just black clouds all over. My friends thought I was going crazy. My family thought I was going crazy because I was getting into meditation. I was getting into channeling. I was getting into healing. I was getting into all this different work. And they've never seen anything like this within me before. And they thought I was losing my mind. But I know that this was something that was just more blissful, more beautiful, and more loving to me than anything I've ever
I have a
encountered.
question for you
Yeah.
because this is a lot of information. I'm trying to digest this as you're speaking,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I'm
I've
feeling
told
and
I've told this
sensing.
story so many times. This is why
Yeah,
it's
like
so easy.
let me now just go into it because I'm curious about your as you were growing up with the Jehovah's Witness and you felt not a connection to that, but you felt a connection to something out there, the stars, the universe,
Hmm.
whatever. And as you are awakening to this and you're receiving these downloads, if you look at it from your perspective now, knowing that you're not crazy, but seeing, do you understand? Do you see the lessons that was given to you as being born into that family as a Jehovah's Witness, and now receiving that piece of information and becoming that channel? Is there any link, any lessons that you've learned from that experience?
Oh, this was learned a very long time ago, right? It was things that I needed to basically come to terms with for quite some time. That was all part of an integration within myself. For me to go into the JW as a reminder of what was to come for myself. It was a reminder in that sense that I would basically know God in the true way, not through a false way. It was basically what you would consider to be just a relapse of different forms of religious aspects of karma. And a lot of that needed to be rectified. A lot of that needed to be taken care of. And so I did that. That was certainly something that I worked with years ago. And being able to resolve all that, I realized I needed to go on the Jehovah's Witness because it was something that represented unfinished business.
Mm.
It was something that was left unresolved because there was still my implementation into that. A lot of my past lifetimes were involved in certain states of religion. And basically, I felt that religion was what was necessary for me to know God. And that was not the answer. So it's something that basically just needed to be closed. It was a book that needed to be closed up altogether. So that was something very much, yeah, I mean, I worked on that for years and
Mhm.
being able to clear all that all together. So everything that I went through is all honored, all appreciated, all respected. It was something that I know I needed to go through, but at the time, that's basically what I'm saying is that as a teenager, no, I didn't care for it. I basically saw the idea of the JWs as a cult and really was not fond of them whatsoever, and I had to let them go. But getting into this particular realization, as you move much more deeper into your spiritual self, you want to look into a lot of these things about why they come in. You have to put the puzzle pieces together. And the puzzle pieces together was that this was all part and parcel of certain religious upbringings that I've had in other perspectives, other life perspectives, that just needed to have a book closed. And so basically, you surrender to all that. You surrender to all that stuff. You bow to the soul, and you realize this is all that I needed to go through in that particular way. And there's no animosity towards the journey that you have. You honor the journey because you know that this is all part of the tapestry that makes up where you are right now.
Mm. So true. So when you acknowledged it many years ago and you say you closed that book, do you feel like you were given some insights? You said you were given downloads. You started to connect more fully with the energies of Sirius. Was that the star that you felt most connected with?
Yes.
So how did that unfold? You said a little bit about it, but how did that for you as, moving through this, opening up, did you close that book and then you started a whole new book? Is that how it
Oh, that's
felt? Or
exactly how it
yeah,
works. Yep.
yeah.
You close one gate and another gate opens. Yeah, so I mean it's about the idea of opening gateways. So basically in that sense you realize that you have to close one gate so that all these other gates can open up. So it's like looking at an infinite hallway. And a lot of us basically just have one or two doors open throughout that infinite hallway because we're stuck in the idea of thinking that this is a pattern that I can't break through. Once you start to learn how to surrender to it and to let it go, all of these doors down this infinite hallway start to open up. So it's a matter of being able to open up all of these other gateways by closing away the ones behind. So as one gateway closes behind, another one opens up. As again, all these other doors that are down this infinite hallway, as we close that one door that was basically stagnating us, then these all other infinite doorways are going to open up. So I realized I needed a lot of these old gates needed to be closed. They needed to be rectified. They needed to be forgiven, and that's very much what I dedicated my life to, especially these past 15 years. Is looking at every facet of my life. I had to look into my relationships. I had to look into my jobs. I had to look into my connections with what I felt I was here to do. I needed to address my beliefs, and I needed to clear all them away. I needed just to completely surrender to them. And that's basically what has brought me the greatest form of peace there is when you learn to surrender to what you think you are and just let what you know you are come forward.
I love that. The surrender part is so hard for humans to do, but it is the
It's actually the
key.
simplest thing to do. The whole idea is that we hold on to identity. That's the problem. Our
Okay.
identity becomes our bread and butter. And as long as you hold on to identity, that's where you think surrender is impossible. Surrender is the simplest thing to do. It's simpler than breathing. But we're not willing to let that go. We say, this is mine. This is something that is, if I do this, I lose. I'm going to disappear. If I let go of this, I didn't disappear. Right?
Mm,
Everything that I've surrendered to has made me much more of who I thought I was because I realized that I am the I am,
mm,
right? So when you basically know, and this is exactly what I had to go through, I had to sacrifice everything, everything left. With me to being able to pursue this path, I had to basically move away from the ex-wife. I wasn't able to see my kids regularly. I was basically estranged with my family. They thought I was just this completely different person that they couldn't relate to. I had old friends of 10, 15, 20 years who no longer wanted to talk to me again. All of that had to go. It was a complete and total clean slate, a wiping away of the whiteboard, and basically being able to start anew. And that's really what I did. I have really just started from scratch these past 15 years. Not to say that there's anything wrong with my family. I still do talk to them. But at that time, I was basically kind of on pause. There was like a pin in it. And I just needed to really look into what is unfolding in me. What is all this capture? Why am I being given all this? Because it's an opportunity for me to put myself together. It was shattered pieces. It's like you're looking at yourself with a jigsaw puzzle, and when you start to take time to float out of the identity process and you look down, you're now putting all of these pieces together. And that's exactly what I did. I just started putting these pieces together in the jigsaw puzzle, and I got to see more of who I truly am. And I wouldn't
So,
trade it for anything.
so how would you define a human being then?
Well, you're not a human being. That's the whole key.
No, but the experience of being human. We are souls having a human
But that's
experience.
the
So
whole
we
idea. That's all it is. It's just an experience. This is clothing that you're wearing. This is a garment that you're wearing. The true nature of you is soul. The true nature of you is spirit. When you are a human being, the problem is you identify too much of being human, and that puts too many fallacies within yourself. See this body no more different than how you're wearing clothing. It's beautiful clothing. It's a beautiful body. It's something that, again, helps you to work together with this experience. But if you keep relating to yourself as a human being, this is why you're lost. You do not see the infinite nature of your spiritual self. Your spiritual self needs to be the forefront of everything else. Here I am in a human body. Here I am in human clothing. And here I am having these experiences. Great. Bring the divine into your human experience. Bring God into your human experience. Bring spirit into your human experience. So have a human life, but realize that your human experience is just a particular clothing, a garment that you're wearing to help you realize that you are the divine within. So it's the divine having a human experience. There's no human having a divine experience.
Okay, so that moves us into the healing part because that is why people need to heal because we do identify and I most people do this. That is why you're here probably to enlighten
Mm-hmm.
people to help them move past their own concept of being human, right? And we have all different ways of doing that, but how would you look at for people now listening and say, well, yeah, you're saying it's the simplest thing to surrender, but the feeling of surrendering is terrifying. It's traumatizing for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people.
Because they
So,
think that they're going to disappear. They think that they're going to vanish. They think that everything that represents their identity is going to be like that and gone. And that's not the case. Your suffering is going to go like that. Because the only reason why you're holding on to things is because you don't feel like you deserve to be that which you know you are, which is the divine. And the only reason you're holding on to that is because you're afraid of the suffering. You think that, okay, I can't get rid of the suffering. This is just going to cause me to disappear. And when I say, guys, do you see me disappearing? Do you see me gone? I'm living in a house. I'm working with a job. I have a car. I have a vehicle, right? I have everything that represents the modern life, but I'm not touched by it at the same time. It's the idea that you're still living your life. You're still being who you wish to be. You still have your work. You still have your family. You still have your friends. None of that goes away. But what does go away is your identity and your feeling of validation that I need to suffer in order to be human. And that is where there is a fallacy. That is ignorance. So the whole key here is being able to let all of that go, is learn to surrender. And all we do is basically look at all the conflicts and the challenges that you are going through and say, okay, I want you now just to look at that for what it is. Can you let it go? Can you surrender? Can you release it? Can you discharge it from your entire being? And then people start doing it and say, yeah, I let it go. I can free it. I can completely surrender to this. How does it feel now that you have completely surrendered to it? Oh, I feel so much better. Did you disappear? No, I'm still here. You still know who you are? Yeah. Oh, there you go. See? The only thing you're clearing away is your suffering. The only thing you're clearing away is the binds and the shackles that you have put upon yourself because you think you have to identify yourself in a certain way and you need to carry out a process. And that becomes a part of the ego. That is what the yogis will often refer to as the true nature of the ego, representing the ahamkara, which represents I-ness. I should be this. I should do that. I should do this. I shouldn't do that, etc., etc. So it's basically that we're letting the ego run the show. We're basically so committed to the idea of constantly saying I all the time. We don't even know what the I truly is. I have to do this. I have to take care of that. I have to take care of my family. I need to do this. I need to do that. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do that. What is this I that you keep saying? And that's the thing. We don't really know what that represents until we go inwards and we are just remaining with the I. As we stay with the I, that is the bridge between your personality and God. And that is where you want to be. You want to learn to simply remain with the I rather than the I-ness. So you're basically getting out of the ahamkara. You're getting out of the nature of that true nature of the ego. which is nothing but just a shadow complexion of ourselves. It's all of these ideas and bundlings of identity, thoughts, feelings, sensations all together that are bundled up into a package that we think this is what we are. You're not any of those things. You are God. You are the infinite. You are omnipresent. You are omniscient. You are omnipotent. That is the nature of your being. And this is what I mean by bringing the divine into yourself. All it takes is your willingness to let go of what you think you are. And that's what I help people through, to help them
So
through.
that moves us straight into the healing part, I guess, because how do we do that? How can we heal that part of ourselves?
Well, this is where I would say, okay, what challenges are you going through that's preventing you from thinking that you are this human being, that's preventing you from realizing that you are the true nature of yourself, that you truly are God? Well, I have problems with finances. Okay, so we need to learn to let that go. We need to relax that. We need to move that into a softening. I have problems with my family. Okay, I need to learn to soften that. I need to learn to let that go as well, too, which means I'm learning to be a lot more responsive in life and less reacting. I'm learning not to react to so many things. If I constantly react, then I feel like I'm trying to control the situation. I cannot control what happens to me, but I can control how I react what happens to me. And when you learn to control that, when you learn to be much more responsive and less in the state of reaction, that's your state of you being a lot more lighter to all the challenge that you're moving into. You're feathering everything. You're starting to move things into a greater lightness. So you're getting out of this need to try and control everyone and everything. You're getting out of this victim consciousness. You're getting out of the nature of abuse. You realize all of these things that I have placed upon myself are my responsibility to resolve. I have a problem with a bully in my life. Guess what? Who is it that brought that on? You did, right? That bully is a manifestation of yourself. So, through my own responsibility, I need to look at that bully that's here, realize exactly how I feel, how I react to that bully, and start to soften the reactions until all that remains is just response. As those tendencies now start to vanish, the bully now no longer becomes a bully. The bully has any charge, no voltage regarding its particular interpretation of being a bully in your life. It's now completely been remedied. Who is it that remedied it? You. So what you're doing is you're cleaning up your nature of reactions. Reactions is what's responsible for what has got you into the state of suffering, right? It's what's created attachments. Now, what did the Buddha say about attachments? All attachments are suffering. And that's basically what's happened. You create reactions, and reactions create attachments. As you create attachments, you start creating these identity nodes within yourself and thinking that this is who I am as a human being. This is what I have to do. Otherwise, I get a horrifying consequence in that way. So you're basically putting up landmines all over yourself by going into these deep states of reaction, by attaching to states of identity that you have assumed yourself to be, because you are highly influenced by the external and you're not letting yourself come into the internal to realize who and what you are. And so that's what I take a person through. And really, the whole key here is just the ability to work with the breath, where we're just working with the breath and we're getting out of the sympathetic nervous system and we're coming into the parasympathetic nervous system. So, in a perfect example for that, which is quite common, you can find this on YouTube, is heart rate variability breathing, where you're just breathing into the nose and you're breathing out through the nose and you're just making the exhale a little bit longer than the inhale, but you're always doing it through nose breathing. As you do that for a few minutes, you notice that your body starts to feel light. It starts to feel calm. You're stimulating the vagus nerve. And as you're stimulating the vagus nerve, you are promoting the parasympathetic nervous system. And that is what is now being established through you. So you're relaxed, you're calm. So now I can look at this challenge and I'm soft. I'm so soft with it. I feel calm. I feel relaxed. You know what? Can you let that go? Sure. Good. Can you surrender to it more? Yes, I can. Good. Can you let it go some more? Yes, I can. Can you release it some more? Yes, I can. Okay. Can you release it to where it's no longer remaining whatsoever? Completely. Great. Just like that. You cleared away a trauma that was with you for 20, 25, 30 years within a matter of seconds because you went into the parasympathetic nervous system and you relaxed and you calmed yourself down and you are no longer holding on in that sense like it's a loose wire thinking that you're getting electrocuted by these ideas of identity. You cleared it all away because you relaxed yourself. You calmed yourself. In that moment when you were relaxed and when you were calm, you were in one with your spiritual self. That's all we do. There's nothing to it. I can teach this to 3-year-olds, right? And basically, they know how to relax, they know how to calm, they follow their breath. I say, okay, you had that big angry spot before. Okay, just go ahead and clear that away. Just go poof, and it's gone. Yeah, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone. Okay, if I can teach this to 3-year-old guys, okay, you guys can get this too. Adults are a little bit more heavily programmed because we've been conditioned for a lot more time. But the only reason you're holding on to it is because you constantly stay within the sympathetic. So again, this is why it's called the sympathetic nervous system. It's attaching to the idea of all these thoughts and ideas of you trying to believe that you're someone that you're not. And that's what you learn to let go of. So for these past 15 years, like I said, that has been my journey. I've had to work with all of that to basically get me to where I am right now, because I had all these attachments as well too. I had all these reactions as well too, and I had to learn to let them go. And here I am now.
So, I have a question for you, Brad, because I did read on your website about healing codes, and I want you to describe that for me. Could you explain for everyone what is healing codes?
Well, the healing codes very much are AetherX. That's the nature of it, right? So basically, before AetherX began, I was doing what's known as the healing code cards, and this is what they are right here. So this is what's known. It's basically been rebranded to AetherX, but in the old days, it was referred to as the healing code cards. So this is what's known as the AetherX body deck, or back then, it was referred to as the healing code cards body deck. So I was being able to develop a lot more capability within myself. I was kind of experimenting with the abilities that I had. And I was able to realize that as I started to go into meditation, I would see these geometries, these geometrical patterns, and I would be able to imbue pure source energy directly into those patterns with a command. So basically, with that imbuing of a command, I would say, okay, if I had a headache, I would just say, okay, through the power of spirit, let this headache be gone. And I would just imbue that directly into the geometrical pattern itself. And anytime where I had a headache, I would just go to that pattern and I would just put my hand on it. And I would notice within a matter of seconds, my headache would start to go away. So, okay, well, I'm on to something here. So this is something in regards to imbuing the power of spirit commands directly into geometrical patterns. So the geometrical patterns function as containers. They would basically contain the energy. As if we don't have a particular geometrical pattern, that energy will dissipate after a certain amount of time. So by having it in a geometrical pattern, just kind of like what you see here behind me with the idea of the flower of life, if I put a particular source energy command directly into that, it holds that particular frequency through the geometrical patterns, because the geometrical patterns, or the sacred geometry, is what makes up all of life. So it basically becomes a sustainable, permanent container for as long as the container exists. So again, as long as I'm not ripping up the paper, as long as I'm not burning it or anything like that, for as long as that particular geometry remains, that source energy command stays within the container. And I've termed this as healing codes. So back in the day, I would do these cards, and I basically had a certain amount of cards that would just work together with the physical body. So you have a card for the brain, you have a card for the spine, you have a card for every single one of the organs, you have cards for your cellular body, you have cards for your bodily systems, your nervous system, etc. And I'd put this deck together and I would hand it out to people. Even gave a few of them away. People would come back to me healed. They would come back to me and say, Brad, I had the most horrible chronic conditions. Right? I had problems with my feet. I had problems with my legs. I had problems with my knees. I had problems with heart palpitations as well. I used the healing code cards, and like that, it's gone. I was able to heal this within a few hours. Like, what did you do? So, well, I'm basically experimenting with these things. I'm always my own guinea pig at first. So I work with these things with myself and I see how well they're doing with me. And then I'd pass it on to a few others. They would respond back to me and say, this is great, great. And then I was able to make this into a product. So as I made this into a product, I again sold quite a lot of them. And people were just constantly coming back, throwing compliments left, right, and center to me and saying, Brad, this works. You need to make more of this. And so that's really what it entails, was the ability of me, because I've spent these last 15 years cleaning myself out. And as you clean yourself out, you go closer and closer into the realization of who you are as spirit. So you and spirit become one. Spirit now starts obeying your commands. You start going into that state where you're relaxed, where you're calm, just like I was talking about, the parasympathetic state. and you're relaxed and you're calm, and you start talking to spirit, and here's a geometrical pattern directly in front of me. I command spirit to place this in here for that. And being able to place that in and feeling it, and then being able to apply it to myself, the energy goes to work. And this is what I've termed as the healing codes. So this is something that was developed around 2018, 2019, around that time. And I started selling these particular cards. And it's very similar to like a tarot deck because they are living cards, right? So when you're working together with the tarot, or you're working together with an oracle deck in that way, you're talking to the cards. You're saying, okay, what about my job that's coming up? What about my financial situation that's coming up? And you're being able to do a reading on yourself. You're talking to the cards. Same thing goes with the AetherX card decks, the healing codes, is you're talking to the cards. You're being able to talk to them and say, okay, I've had a bad condition with my heart. Healing code card, go ahead and take care of healing my heart for me. And I have a heart enhancer right here and I'm taking care of it. So basically, that is what the healing codes are. They're my own dialogue directly with spirit. I would say they are more so my own commands directly to spirit. Spirit is coming through and putting all of those codes through source energy directly ingrained into those geometrical patterns for as long as the card exists. And as you duplicate the exact same symbol throughout a majority of different cards, you can duplicate this 1,000 times, you can duplicate this 1,000,000 times. Every single card that is identical to the original design will carry those codes. So that's exactly what happens. I could basically duplicate these cards to 1,000,000,000,000, and every single one of them would work the exact same. So basically, they are complete and total replications of the original design and imprint that I've put the healing code cards or the healing code imprints directly into. And so this is exactly what launched the healing code cards. From the healing code cards, this is where it was taken to the next level, which represented AetherX.
Yes, let me hear the story behind AetherX. How did you, the healing technology, how did you just
Okay.
download that or?
Well, see, we always try to find an intellectual way of understanding. I can never really always put it articulately in the way that I do, other than basically what I'm sharing is just being able to work together with one with spirit, right? There are people on this planet who are able to talk to spirit. And through the ability of talking to spirit and being able to ask for something or command something, it is given. And like I said, it needs to come to a point where you completely surrender to yourself, where you know that you and spirit are one. That's really what it takes. So once you're there, you're able to work with spirit, and spirit's happy to do any particular command that you wish. This is what I realized. I can command spirit to do these things. And so that's really what I did with the cards. Like I said, I imbued all of these spirit commands directly into the geometrical patterns of these cards, and they started working to help heal people. Now, I don't make any medical claims in regards to the healing code cards. They are healing cards. That's the nature of them. The AetherX card decks are basically healing cards. They're not medical cards, right? So I'm not making any medical claims here or anything of that nature. I'm approaching this to the nature of a healer, not a medical professional. So basically, as I knew that this was working, because I created a body deck, I created a mind deck, I created an energy deck, right? So there's different card decks here. There's 3 of them. And I said, well, I want to take this to the next level. If I can do this with cards, I think I can do this with clothing. I think I can do this with bed kits. I can do this with accessories. I can do this with apparel. I can do this with common household items. And that is exactly how AetherX was born. So AetherX was born to basically take the idea of the healing code cards and expand it to a greater capability of different material items. So whether it's looking into the idea of towels, whether it's looking to the idea of cloths, clothing, accessories, apparel, bed kits, yoga mats, all of these different things. All of them are crystals as well too. We're basically making this large catalog of different items that contain different variations of spirit healing that is imbued directly into the material item itself. So, for example, we have 2 different types of bed kits. We have one that's called a prana bed. We have another one that's called a Taurus bed. The prana bed basically works together with your own life force energy. It's basically going into your solar plexus because your solar plexus is the backup battery of your body. So we're basically tuning into the excess prana, the excess life force energy into your solar plexus. And through the bed, it is utilizing that as a power source. And it's working with clearing out the entire body because I did a lot of deep, sophisticated coding for the bed kit itself. And so as you lay down in the bed, you learn how to activate it because I give you instructions online instructions once you get the bed, and you start laying down on the bed. You start activating it in the way that the instructions tell you, and now you're starting to feel all this energy. A lot of people who are very sensitive to subtle energies will feel their entire body just being rejuvenated. And it feels like you're just sleeping on a cloud. It feels like you're just being wrapped around with like a big blanket of love, and you don't want to leave your bed. And that was my first experience when I got my prototype. And then I made another bed kit that was called the Taurus bed. So I'm not going to go too much into details because it's a lot of technical details here. But basically, in that sense, just like I did with the healing code cards, where I imbued all of those commands directly into the geometrical patterns of the cards, I did the exact same thing. So all of the material items that is on AetherX basically have these geometrical patterns in some shape, way, or form. There are some particular material items that do not have the geometrical patterns, but they basically exist as a particular material item that's suitable for me to put the codes in to where if I'm working with something like an amethyst cluster, then the amethyst cluster basically contains its own geometry, and I can put those codes directly into it without it losing. Now, basically, mineral items have the capability of holding a spirit charge for over 2 million years. So, when you're actually being able to charge a crystal or a stone in that way, similar to how some people will basically say, yeah, I was able to charge this morning. Good. Because that stone's going to basically hold that charge for about 2 million years. So this is why, again, working together with stones, you don't really need to work with geometry. They will hold the charge. They will hold the source energy pattern directly into it for a great amount of time, well after you and I are gone. So that, again, is a good benefit. So I'm using that as well, too. But it's basically just taking the idea of the healing code cards and taking it to the next level. So we have this plethora, this catalog of many different material items. And I basically used a slogan on the AetherX website that says, bringing your inner power outwards. And that's what we're doing. We're basically taking everything from the inside and we're imbuing it into outside everyday items. And now people are using this. And what this is doing is this is helping to function as a training wheel for yourself. You're realizing if you lay in a bed and you're able to heal yourself by having that bed with you, if you're able to wear a shirt and you realize that that shirt is rejuvenating you, then this is giving you an idea that through everything that is within me, when I have the right mindset, I'm able to use my own energy to completely heal myself. And the material items of AetherX are proving that.
Hmm. I love that you're saying that actually we all have that within
Yeah,
ourselves.
we do. Absolutely.
And this is a training for people who maybe
Yep.
not have reached that point yet, and you're helping
Exactly.
them to reach that point with physical things to surround
Yep.
yourself with. And I think that's pretty powerful in these times because
hmm
we are so influenced by all this crap, sorry, that we are being
That's right.
pushed upon. So it's
hmm
good to be able to know that there are other things that we can do and use to actually fall into that space. And I
Yes.
think the sacred space is maybe that we need to learn more to create within our own homes and within our own space. Just allow ourselves to be and to set the pure intentions that you're speaking of. Because I feel like when you're speaking, you're following, you have an intention for what you do. Like I could ask you anything, and you
hmm
have a pure intention coming from source energy helping you to realize and to serve through AetherX, right? That's just
Yes.
one of
Yes.
it. You're doing many things, but this is one part of
hmm
it. And I'm thinking,
That's one
of
part of it.
course,
Yes.
like for a human being, I'm here to serve humanity as well, even though I do live my life from the soul level. I always done that because I am a channeler myself.
hmm
But the thing is, the intention behind it, always my spiritual team always says that, within to be a pure channel for love, you need to have that self-love. You need that vibration of the heart to allow yourself to be open and tune into that higher consciousness, if you wish, and to allow that to come forward. And as you're speaking, we've gone through the healing part. You reach that when you're surrendered, when you're there within the heart
hmm
vibration. That is when
Yes.
you become that channel. And so, having tools like what you're sharing now, I'm thinking, yes, I use crystal. I've always done that. Yes, I do use some nature oils, natural oils. But now you're actually talking about more physical stuff that we can do to
hmm
help
Yes. Yeah. So
our
basically, just putting
physical
on a shirt.
bodies. I'm thinking because that's the hard part. I'm going to say it again, surrendering for you and for a lot of people who's anchored within the heart vibration might be easy to look like, yeah, it was easy, but to a lot of people, that is like why they're here. They're here
Mhm.
to,
Mhm.
really surrender to their own inner power, and having these tools are just amazing. That's a new earth technology.
Yeah, I mean, it took me 29 years to surrender to all that stuff. Like I said, we don't realize it. Yeah, we don't realize it until we're actually faced with it, right? When we realize that I'm in a rut, what do I do? And you're constantly just getting that flow from spirits to surrender,
Yeah.
let go of all these things. And at some particular point, you click and you say, okay, I need to surrender, I need to let go. So basically, you'll just know it's kind of like spirit takes over, and you just start doing this breathing, and you relax, and you realize, okay, I'm able to let this go now. I'm able to let it go. I'm able to relinquish it. And you may not have any background in working together with a coach or a guide or anything of that particular way, but you just knew how to do that. And I've met people like that, right? Where people come up to me. I mean, I've worked with tens of thousands of people over the world for the past 15 years, and I've met all different types of people from all walks of life. And when I start to teach them exactly how simple it is to do this, I'd say about 90 to 95% of them get it. And that's the good thing, because I try to put it in a very simple way that, on an interview level, I basically explain some of the technicality to it. But when I'm actually talking to a person with it, I'm taking them through a very simplistic approach about how to do this. And so, okay, let's just pull up your challenge. Let's see it for what it is. Okay, let's do some heart rate variability. Let's get ourselves into the parasympathetic and just see that for what it is. Now, can you let that go? Every single person can let that go, right?
Yeah.
And if they struggle a little bit, I'm still going through. Okay, you realize that that's just a thought. You realize that that's just a feeling. This is all in the mind. Are you the mind? No. What are you? I am. That's it. I am consciousness. I am awareness. I am omnipresent. I am omnipotent. I am omniscient. That is my nature of being, right? So, what I'm doing is I'm basically reminding them about who and what they truly are. People just identify too much with the body mind principle.
Mm.
And so, when we're basically in that parasympathetic state, we're able to let go of those things a lot more. So, we basically just go into that relaxed, idle state of being, and now we're able to become a lot more receptive into the ability of surrender. If you think it is hard, it's because you think it is hard. You think it's almost impossible. But even if I take you through the entire process and you're able to work through the breath, just as I instruct you to, you realize it's not hard anymore. The only thing that's been hard is me holding on to an image that's not me. I'm constantly putting this mask on my face, and I'm basically just wearing out my hands trying to keep this mask on my face, and it's not working. I feel exhausted. I'm losing my energy. I need to let it go. Take the mask off. And that's it. Surrendering takes no effort at all. The greatest effort is you trying to maintain an image, it's you trying to maintain an identity. That's the most challenging thing. So when you realize that that doesn't need to be there anymore, and that all of the problems that have come through has been through your own perspective, because no one else shares your perspective of problems. It's always your problem. Your problem that you have will always uniquely be yours. It's as unique as a fingerprint. So what we're doing is we're just clearing that glass of all these fingerprints of what we think we are, until the glass is now completely sparkling clean. And you realize I'm a clean slate. I realized I held on to all of those things. And just as simple as it is to breathe, I was able to clear all of those away. And this is, again, what I've done with great success with many clients from all over the world for the past 15 years. Whether I've been able to connect with a Adronis, whether I've been able to talk to them myself, even when I've gone into the channeling state to bring a Adronis through, and he's a powerful energy, and he makes it very simple for a lot of them as well too. So through me doing it, through him doing it, it's always been a great success rate. Like I said, well over 90%.
Wow. Yeah. And I was thinking when you were speaking that some people are stopped by their own emotions when this is going on, because the pain, if you have
Mhm.
pain in your physical body, when you start working on this, you're going to have some resistance and the pain is going to increase. So, how do you help people to release, to move through that pain? Because it can really be painful. I know this because I'm also trained master NLP coach
Just
that left
get
the
them
money.
to breathe. You
Yeah.
just get them to breathe. There's nothing else you have to do. If you're trying to get them in other ways, then you're basically trying to be too forceful. You just remind them to breathe. Okay, I understand you're feeling that pain. I understand you have this really big challenge. I've worked with people with PTSD as well too. I understand exactly that this is a lot of pain. All I want you to do is breathe. All I want you to do is just follow the breath exactly as I'm doing, and just do that for a few minutes. And we do that together for a few minutes. They start to breathe, and I check in with them. How are you feeling? Yeah, I'm feeling a bit lighter. Okay, let's do a little bit more of this. Let's do a little bit more. So we're breathing in through heart rate variability. We're breathing out. The breath is your antidote to all of your suffering. And that's the key. If you learn how to do breath work, and if you know how to put yourself into the parasympathetic nervous system state, that's
Yeah.
what's going to give you the edge to be able to clear all of this out. If we're constantly breathing, oh, I'm just so stressed out about this, and right, and we're just constantly breathing in this sympathetic state, right? You're basically fight or flight. It's either I'm going to fight this or I'm going to run away, right? And that's basically it. If we basically try to heal a person or try to facilitate the healing of them while they're in a sympathetic state, it's impossible. You can't do it, right? You have to get them into the parasympathetic. You have to get them to work together with the breathing, where the exhaling is a little bit longer than the inhale, can even be a lot longer than the inhale as well too. You basically look into pranayama, breath control exercises, very much like what the yogis have taught us for thousands of years, where you're doing alternate nostril breathing, where you're doing ujjayi pranayama, right? Where you're doing the bee breath, you're plugging your ears and you're doing a humming sound, right? All of these particular examples help to get you into the parasympathetic. The heart rate variability, like I'm talking about, is helping you to get into the parasympathetic. Being able to take a deep breath in and then just om chanting mentally or even verbally, very slowly as you exhale. That's going to bring you into the parasympathetic nervous system. That's going to get you idle. And you basically want to get yourself into an idle, subtle state of being. Because when you're there, you're calm. Does calmness exist when you are completely stressed out and you're just ready to go haywire? No, you're not calm. That's exactly why you can't clear this away. You're too attached to your situation. You're too in your body. You're too in your mind. And so being able to get out of that involves going into the parasympathetic nervous system. This is extremely important that we need to know this, because as you start to get yourself calm and idle, that is your edge to helping you clear away everything. And then your ability to surrender will be as easy as it is to breathe, even easier than that.
So true. The breath, that's what my spiritual team has always said to me since I was a
Hmm.
kid.
Yes.
Breathe.
Yes.
Pull your soul back in.
Yep,
So
that's it. And
yeah,
you want to
that's
breathe to
it.
the point where you are
Yeah.
completely receptive, you are completely calm, you are completely idle, where you
Yes.
basically just feel that I'm able to look at everything and it feels like I'm just floating. I'm floating in bliss. I'm floating in
Yeah.
happiness. I'm floating in joy, because
Yeah.
that's your natural state. That's
And you
who
can
and what
actually
you are.
see it, or at least I can see it when I open my eyes. I can
Some
see it
people
in
can
the,
see it, some
yeah, I
people can
see it.
just feel it, right? So
Yeah.
it all
It's
depends. But as
beautiful.
long as the person is there, as long as that
Yeah.
person is in that nice, calm, relaxed, low idle state, great. Now we can go to work. Now we can
Yeah.
start doing that. So this is what I've taught my students.
Mm.
I've had students for years, and I basically teach them. Say, guys, you cannot free anybody if they're still breathing in and they're still attached to their identity, because they're sympathetic breathing, right? So
Yes.
basically, they're hyperventilating, they're constantly breathing in and out through their mouth. Can't do that. You do not want to be breathing in and out through your mouth. Okay. Your mouth is not designed the same way that your nose is designed. Your nose is designed to basically bring you into the parasympathetic, because you have these three nadi channels here, basically energy channels within your body. And you need to exercise that through the nose, not through the mouth. So if you're going, oh yeah, I'm just all stressed out and I can't take it anymore, that's sympathetic right there.
Mm.
So we need to bring ourselves into the parasympathetic nervous system. We need to use this thing on our face called the nose. We need to breathe in. Some people say, oh, Brad, I may have a deviated septum. Use some strips. Okay, work with the alternate nostril breathing, as I talk about as well, too. Then eventually, then time, that's going to help you to clear out your nose. But you can just use simple nasal strips. They will open up your passages a little bit more, and that will help you as well, too, just to breathe in and to breathe out. We want to make sure we're doing nose breathing, because that is going to stimulate yourself into parasympathetic nervous system state.
Yes, that's great, great tips for everyone listening. Just to start, learn how to breathe properly. That's,
Hmm.
the first step, I would
That's the
say.
first
I
step.
think that's
Exactly.
the good, yeah, breathe,
Mhm.
learn how to breathe. And then
Yep.
the rest will unfold, I think,
You got it. You got
as
it.
you're
Yep.
willing to surrender. Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's have some fun. Let's look into the future, shall we, Brad? What
Go for
does
it.
the new Earth look like? And how
You're
is
you're in it right
humanity
now.
evolving?
You're in it right now. That's the whole idea. The new Earth is not something that's going to come tomorrow or next week or next year or anything like that. You're in it right now. You are witnessing what the new Earth looks like as soon as you step outside your door. That's it. Well, Brad, there's a lot of this suffering going on. Of course, that's the whole idea. Why is there suffering going on? Because there's change happening. Because change is happening. That's why all of these things are up in an uproar that they are. Everything is basically going into these chaotic shifts because things are changing. The groundwork is shifting. There's shifting going on. There's changes going on. And it's a wonderful time to be alive. You're witnessing all of these things that have been grounded and cemented into human artificial systems for decades, for centuries. And now you're watching all of that getting shake up. You're watching all of that starting to buckle. You're watching all of these things, these ancient pillars that have all been around these corrupt systems that are now starting to fall apart. That's the new earth, my friends. So right now we're going through a transitional state that is going to help to implode a lot of these systems taking place right now. Now, when we look into it, when we get too much into a lot of the identity of what's happening, all this stuff, oh, there's a lot of these governments that are trying to enforce this. Why do you think they're trying to enforce this? Because the people are waking up, because people are changing, because people are shifting, and they're no longer accepting the way how things were, and so they're trying to enforce it. That never works. That's a very, very short spurt that only lasts a certain amount of time before the people completely take over everything. And this has been shown throughout the course of other civilizations that have had the idea of rising and falling. And they always fall through the idea of civil unrest and the idea where people are taking a stand and they are coming together and they're saying, no, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. We're shutting it all down. And so we're in the spurt period. We're going to realize that, again, all of these government agencies, everything pertaining to politics, everything relating to world leaders in that sense, are in a panic because people are not following the status quo anymore. People are now starting to change. And this is why they're trying to enforce all these laws. They're trying to enforce all these things. It's not going to work. That's like trying to hold a tidal wave back behind a wooden door. Wooden door is going to get slammed down altogether. The waves are going to start building up bigger, and that door is now going to be completely torn apart by the gigantic tidal wave. That's exactly what's happening. You are witnessing the new earth. Now, what will it look like after we get out of all this turmoil, out of all this turbulence that's going through? You're going to be looking at new people powered systems. You're going to be looking at the idea that if leaders are elected, they are elected much more into an independent branch. When you notice that your country, your province, your state is now starting to move much more into an independent way, that's when you know that you're moving into the seeds of the new earth. Everything on this planet is basically going to have an independency to it, and they're going to work together with each other, but it's going to be moving much more into a republic. It's going to be moving much more into a sovereignty. Now, we're still in the confines of transition before that takes place, but that again is still representing the flow of the new earth that's coming in. So when you're noticing that there's a lot more people that are campaigning for independence, when they basically want to make their states, their provinces, or even their countries independent, that is the sign. Those are the seeds that are being planted. And that is really what you're going to be seeing pertaining to the idea of a new earth. You're going to see cooperation. You're not going to see control. You're going to see the idea of people working together, not at each other's throats. So this is all part of the idea of basically, even if we're going back into biblical reference, the wicked are being separated from the righteous and tossed into the fiery furnace where there'll be much weeping and gnashing of teeth. Okay, exactly as Jesus would put it, and he's right on the money. Right? This is the whole idea, is that we're separating the idea of what is wicked from what is righteous, from what is complete and total unrest and chaotic, and what is corrupt to that which is genuine. That's being separate right now. And now it's starting to become quite clear that many of these particular politicians and world leaders that have had these agendas have made themselves very transparent. It's not in the dark. It's not hiding in a closet anymore. You are seeing it. And that's the idea. You will see the nature themselves in the world exactly as it has said through prophecy. And then people are going to realize this. They're going to see it for much more for what it is, and they're going to walk away from it all. And they're going to demand that there's going to be much greater change. And what are we going to see? A new heaven and a new earth, as the prophecies also say. That is also what you're looking at right now. You are seeing the new earth unfold right now. And it's going to be a beautiful cooperative. There's going to be people working together. There's going to be innovations of technology. We are in time going to become a spacefaring intergalactic civilization. And guess who's going to help us to get there? Our children. The children are going to be the innovators. The children are going to be the ones that are actually going to help to build this technology and actually start having orbital platforms above the earth, cities above the earth. You're going to have cities by the ocean. You're going to have cities out beyond the planet. You're going to have spacecraft that you're going to be able to go between earth and the moon. And this is going to be probably going forward, probably the next couple of decades. So the children are very much the ones that are going to help to get us there. The children are going to be the innovators in that sense, because if these adults aren't deprogramming themselves, then they basically need to take some time to get their stuff together. And the children are going to now start picking up the pace. And they're the ones that that are going to build these new technologies, these new innovations. They are the ones that are going to lead the charge towards the idea of independency. It's already starting to happen. That's what's beautiful ahead. So, like I
Mm.
said, everything that's happening right now is a beautiful thing. It needs to happen in this way. It can't just be rainbows and dancing in the light. There needs to be the idea that these pillars have to be taken down. They can't just stay up, they got to go. Everything has to be completely changed. Not a single stone can be left unturned. Every stone on this planet needs to be turned. Every single one. And I mean with every particular compartment, with every particular category, with every particular topic we can think of. All of the stones have to be turned on its head. If it is not moving forward into a harmonious idea that is complementing others, then it's got to go. And that's what we're seeing right now. This whole shakeup needs to happen, and it's going to last this whole decade. This whole decade is a cleanup decade. As we get into 2030s, now we start to move into something that's much more of a greater renewal time. Like I said, the children stepping up and now being the great innovators, and this is where we can start to see a lot more independency coming together.
Ooh, that's inspiring.
Hmm.
That is really inspiring. We should be joyful about that because
That's
we
it.
need it.
Got
So
it.
we're ready for it. I
I
know, even
certainly
that.
am. Looking at
Yeah,
all
and
these
I'm,
things, it's a wonderful thing to see.
yes, and I just, when you were speaking, yeah, children are truly the future. And looking at my children, seeing how they're so good with technology, I'm like, yeah, I can't even
Hmm.
keep up. So, yes,
Exactly. Yeah,
I
they know.
definitely
They do.
get that.
Yeah,
Wow.
and they're
I,
an entirely different species. That's the whole idea. When you're looking at children nowadays, they are a different type of human. They are not at all like the old human was, because we're moving into a new wave of consciousness. So the old wave
yes.
was about the person who was a revolter, who was a rebel, who would stand up to the system, who would try to defy the system, who would basically be these type of rebellious individuals. They were very much third chakra based, right? They're all about the idea of action and taking action and revolting and rebelling against the man and all that stuff. That was where we have come from. These new children are not like that. They're here. They're up in the heart. They are heart-centered children. And the heart-centered children doesn't care about rebelliousness. Yeah, my grandpa took care of that stuff. I don't need to worry about that crap. I'm up here in the heart center, and now I'm starting to work together with the earth. I'm starting to follow my intuition. I'm working together with technology in a beneficial way that could help people. I want to work with the environment. I want to clean the water. I want to clean the air. I want to do all these environmental changes. I want to help out with people. I want to help them a lot more. That is what the new children are. The new children are the heart centered ones. So, parents, that's why your children are different. They are heart centered, right? So, don't give them a hard time because they're much more compassionate. They're much more big softies in that way. Of course, they're softies because they're heart centered. That's their nature. That's how they've been designed. It's a new human being that has now moved up into the heart center. They're not here in the navel here, ready to put up their dukes and having to rebel and having to get things done. And, I gotta take the law in my own hands and blah, blah, blah. Right? That's the old generation. We're not the old generation anymore. You guys need to step out of the way and let the new generation do their job. And that's the heart centering. And that's where they're coming from. So encourage them, help them, support them, work with them, let them know about that big, beautiful heart that they have. And that's what's going to help with further innovations to really turning this planet into something brand new.
Mm, yes. Thank you so much, Brad, for this inspiring conversation. And for
I've had a
not
good
only
time.
that, for sharing your gift with the world. I mean, we need more people like you to speak up and share their gift. And I appreciate you for all you're doing.
Well, there's quite a few. That's the whole idea. And if we notice that there's others like that, then we just need to encourage them every step of the way, support them, help them out because they have incredible gifts. And I've met quite a few people who have had just incredible gifts as well. So they can do even more than I can. And they just need the support and the encouragement. So, do I have something here? Oh, you do. And you're very, very special with your gifts. And we want to make sure we're encouraging those people. So, if you meet them, help them, encourage them, because some of them basically have a lack of confidence with themselves. They have these profound abilities that they can do, but they don't think it's a big deal. They don't think they really have anything. Help them to remind them exactly of what they have, and help them to again kind of reach the top of the mountain with them.
Yes, that is how we can co create a more loving and compassionate world. So thank you for saying that, Brad.
Very good.
And I just want to let everyone know who's watching or listening that if you want to learn more about Brad and his work, then you'll find his contact information in the episode description. Also, if you want to go even deeper and unlock your divine power, then the Spiritual Quest live stream masterclasses is here to serve you. You can join for free and learn from some of my favorite podcast guests as they teach on their topics, sharing valuable resources in support of your spiritual quest. To learn more about how you can join us for free, please check out the episode description. And one last thing, if these conversations light you up, please share them with the world and leave a review in your favorite podcast app. That would truly make my heart bubble with joy. So thank you again, Brad, for being here and sharing your gift. It was incredible, inspiring. So thank you. And
Thank you.
sending
Thank you for having me on again.
and sending everyone much love and light from me, your host, Vibeke Garnos, always guided by spirit. Bye now.